Welcome back, everybody, to another Basement Binge episode that I'm very, very excited about. If you were someone who clicked on this episode just from the title, I'm kind of shocked, but I'm also really glad that you did, because this is going to be a fun episode. I've been looking forward to this episode and the next one on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sequel for quite a while now. In fact, I planned it like a year ago that this is what I was going to do for my birthday week in 2021 was these two movies for the podcast. It got delayed by a few weeks, but that's a good thing because of that delay, I've been able to be joined by Matt and Robb, my podcast family, so to speak, from the Fast and Furious movies, if you remember that. So, Matt and Robb, thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been a minute since the three of us have been able to get on a show together. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Myself as well. I'm very excited. So we will immediately jump in to our 2 cents. So this is our spoiler-free reaction to the film. Spoiler-free thoughts. Matt, I'm going to let you go first on this. Take it away.
Oh, so this is an interesting one because it is big, it is dumb, and it does not make a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I just watched this today. Not the first time I've seen it, but a rewatch in anticipation for this, just to refresh my memory. And like I said, it's just as wonky as I remember it. True to Michael Bay form, this movie follows a distinct pattern, and is almost shot incredibly scene for scene and angle for angle, like the first Transformers movie. Which is actually hysterical to me to watch it today. But again, I had a lot of fun watching this. I think there's some really great things about this movie. The dynamic between the turtles is one of them. I think they actually nailed that in this first movie. And I was really surprised because I don't think Michael Bay's ever shown he can do character development. Except for maybe The Island with Ewan McGregor. It's one of his rare hits. That I thought he did a good job. But sticking to this movie, yeah, it's big, it's dumb, it's loud, but I had a blast.
Okay, I'm gonna follow Matt because Matt and I have seen it before. Robb has not. So why did I pick this movie? I'm in charge of my own schedule here. No one is forcing me to watch these. I'm forcing Robb to watch them. Why did I pick these? I love these two movies. I have such a soft spot for them. Matt said it so well. They are big and they are dumb, and so much of it doesn't make any sense, and it's really kind of stupid. And you think about it like, this is the Ninja Turtles movie that we got. Why did they do this? But then there's other scenes that I literally live in my brain rent-free because I love them so much. I think about them frequently. When I think about my love for movies, a few scenes from these films come to mind. When I think about scenes in movies that inspire me to want to make movies myself, I think about scenes in these films. Like, that's how much I love these. Every once in a while, I'll just queue up YouTube and watch a few scenes from this film because I just love it so much. The Ninja Turtles, I feel like they get really well. Also, Matt pointed out this is a lot like a Transformers movie, and I've talked about frequently how I like those movies, so maybe that's why it's in the same vein as Transformers. But yeah, these are just a blast. Yeah, the story is really the weakest part of it, especially when you think about, like, this is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. But when you're just watching the Ninja Turtles on screen, it's genuinely fun. And, it has the same falling out parts where we see films like Transformers have, where they try to focus on things that they shouldn't in a movie of this kind. But for the most part, it is so much fun, and I love watching it. And there's a few scenes that I just smile from ear to ear because I'm having a great time. So I was excited to hear what other people thought about him. So I'm glad to know that so far I'm 1 for 1. Maybe Robb is going to live up to his reputation and ruin that. So I'll give Robb the floor now to see what he thinks.
Man, so I agree a lot so far with what you guys have said. If you really focus on the story, yeah, there's certain aspects of it that you go, huh? When you really get right down to it, the screen rating here is fairly basic, fairly formulaic. This is clearly intended for a young audience to follow along with. without having to think about it too much, to recognize beats, to recognize story points, to just recognize things that they're going to be familiar with, and just be able to watch, the four turtles on screen, kicking ass and beating up bad guys and stuff like that. That being said, it's still fun. Like acknowledging that some of the screenwriting is bad, some of it is pointless, some of it focuses on the wrong things at the wrong times. It's still a lot of fun. I had actually not seen this film before getting invited to come hang out to do this, so I was actually really excited to get a chance to. It's one of those things. It's one of the things I've loved about podcasting, is getting a chance to go back and revisit films that I've really enjoyed, and have an excuse to sit down and watch them again, because I'm so busy in my life that it's hard for me to go back and rewatch things I've already seen, or sometimes make time for something that I've wanted to see, but it's hard to, like, I would have never just decided to watch Ninja Turtles on my own, but I did want to see it. So I'm glad that I got the opportunity to do it, because I was, not to tip my hand too much when we get to, Rummage for the Rotten, but I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. So when you had texted us about, hey, do you guys want to do this? So I started trying to figure, okay, where's this streaming? Is this on something I already subscribed to? And it came up that it was on Tubi TV, which is a free streaming service. You don't pay anything for it. So already I'm going, oh man, I hadn't heard good things about this movie. And it's on a free streaming service. Like, it's not even on Netflix. Like, it's not on something you have to pay for. There's ads. There's literally ads while you're watching this movie. And I thought, well, that can't be good. And that actually made my heart hurt a little bit, because I was a kid when the Ninja Turtles first came out. I can recite every line from the cartoon theme song, like literally every line. Like, don't ask me to do it now because you won't enjoy it, but I could do it if gun to my head, I could do it. I have a very soft spot for the Ninja Turtles, because this was, I was born in 1982. So kind of the beginning of my childhood, when I started watching TV and cartoons and playing with action figures. The beginning of my childhood was kind of like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and that kind of faded out. But then the bulk of my childhood, the major dominating piece of culture in my childhood, was the Ninja Turtles, the cartoon, the toys, the movies, everything. And for me, it's hard to say that they didn't have a major impact on my lifelong fascination with martial arts, that I'd never really got a chance to do anything about. So I got into college, but I'd always been fascinated by it, and still to this day. It's just one of the things that I've enjoyed the most in my life is finally getting a chance at 18 to get involved in the martial arts. And I really think it was growing up in that Turtles generation. So having the chance to kind of see them come back after being away for a while, was something I was really into.
Well, I think we broke his streak finally. I'm just kidding. All right, so that was our 2 cents. I am so excited to get into the spoilers of this, especially after what Rob had to say. So let's move on to the next segment that Rob hinted at, Rummage for the Rotten. So this is based off of Rotten Tomatoes, very cleverly named. So just for reference, this film is rated at a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not fantastic. So here at the Base and Binge, we have our Pick or Poison, which is our rating scale. But as Matt on his show has a rating out of 5 reels, we're going to keep with his tradition, where at the end of this episode, we are going to give our rating for the film out of 5 reels. So the Rummage for the Rotten is where the 3 of us get to guess who will be the rotten, as in the person who gives this the lowest rating. Doesn't matter if the lowest rating is 4.88888 out of 5. If that's the lowest, they're the rotten. So I'm going to guess who it's going to be. And I thought I had it in the bag. I was just going to go for Rob. And now I'm confused. I think it is going to be a tie between Matt and Rob, actually. I'm going to confidently say that I think it's a tie. Matt, I'll let you guess next.
I do think it's going to be by a sliver, but I think I'm going to forgive more of the shortcomings of this movie than Rob would. I think his score will surprise us, but I still think it'll be the lowest, but probably it might just be by a sliver.
Yeah, I think all of that's accurate. I think I'm probably going to surprise you with the ranking that I give it. I think it's probably still, I think I'm probably going to have the lowest out of the three of us, but I don't think it's going to be by much.
Okay. Well, I'm excited for the end of the episode where we will find out. So Rob, I guess you're living up to your legacy over here at the Basement Binge. So before we get into the spoilers now, I want to give both Matt and Rob a chance to talk about the podcast Matt Goes to the Movies, which is obviously Matt's podcast, and Rob is a big part of that. And so I wanted to give them both a chance to talk about what they have done recently over there. Rob, I'll let you go first because it's pretty exciting what you're doing. And then Matt kind of closes out with anything you want to say about your show, because I appreciate you both being here.
Yeah, thanks for the chance to do that. So my name is Rob, and Matt invites me on with some frequency to hang out with him and talk about shows and movies on his channel. Matt Goes to the Movies, and actually, after being a guest on this show, and a question you had asked, Harrison, about why do I love movies and some of the movies that I love so much, it was one of those things that I was really thinking about for a couple of days, and I kind of generated an idea out of it, and Matt was kind enough to let me borrow his channel, which, considering that he's made me rewatch X-Men Origins Wolverine, he's made me rewatch Batman v Superman, and he's also made me rewatch Justice League, theatrical version of Justice League. I kind of feel like he owes me something for that. So he was kind enough to let me borrow his channel and do a show with my brother Eric called Rob's Reviews, where we kind of look at some of these movies that has really had a major impact on he and I throughout a good bit of our life. We knew the first two we wanted to do. We started with Fight Club and had a lot of fun talking about that one. And then we just released an episode on Goodfellas, which, as I said the last time I was here, it's one of my three favorite movies of all time. I actually got a chance to go back and read the book Wise Guy that the film was based on. And it was really a lot of fun to do. It was a lot of fun to research, and we really had a good time doing it. So I appreciate Matt letting me borrow his channel for a minute.
I am excited for everybody to go over and listen to the episodes. I haven't listened to the Goodfellas episode yet, but the Fight Club episode, it was really interesting because I had known that I kind of inspired that when I asked you why you enjoy movies. So I was intrigued to hear your brain, kind of peel open your brain and see how you thought about that further. And it's a great episode. Especially for your first time hosting. It's a great episode. So yeah, definitely go check out both of those. But Matt, anything you want to add on?
Yeah, no, it was, in a way I felt like I do owe Rob. I've asked him to rewatch some pretty stellar picks. But it was a lot of fun listening to those two episodes. Certainly listeners of Matt Goes to the Movies have really picked up on those episodes. I mentioned one little tidbit to Rob before we started recording, but I will let him be known, and he'll probably maybe be shocked here. Fight Club has actually, in the short time it's been available, cracked the top 10 for downloads on Matt Goes to the Movies. So there's a lot of people that like that movie and have wanted to listen to that episode. So that was actually really cool to see that has jumped into the top 10. Oddly enough, still, I'm always shocked by this. The rebooted Power Rangers movie still has a commanding lead on the number one downloaded show on Matt Goes to the Movies, and I'm always shocked when I see that. But with Matt Goes to the Movies, we have some episodes coming out. I don't want to dump everything at once because I had some audio trouble with the Tom Cruise marathon I did, which I had to, really work and get those audio sound bites off the computer, downloaded, do some editing to them. So I am working on uploading them. It's taken a little bit longer, a little bit of a crazy work schedule lately that has kept me from doing a couple of things that I want. But those are still coming. I hope to have those up here by the end of the week finally. But also over the week, I did get to go see Snake Eyes, which I'd really like to do a review on. And I was surprised last week on, I believe it was a Tuesday night. I can't remember the exact day, but I was surprised with an outdoor trip to see The Breakfast Club on an outdoor theater screen. in a parking lot on a beautiful night, which is my favorite movie of all time, The Breakfast Club. So I'm going to do a review on that because that was a awesome experience, something I wasn't expecting. It was just kind of thrust upon me like, hey, going to go check out an outdoor movie. I had no clue what it was. It happened to be my favorite movie of all time. So I look forward to bringing that review as well.
Wow, great episodes to look forward to. So since we're in the announcement segment of this, real briefly, I mentioned the last episode that there was a La La Land episode coming. It is still coming. I just found out I have a lot more to say about that movie than I thought, and it is hard to compile all those thoughts into one episode that makes sense instead of it just being splattered in randomness. So it's coming. Stay subscribed for that. Anyway, that's enough announcements because those are a horrible way to die. So let's move on into the spoilers, into the very first spoiler section. Pick your poison. Here at the Basement Binge, this is our made-up rating scale where instead of having it on his reels like Matt does with his show or a percentage like Rotten Tomatoes or whatever your preferred rating is, we choose our interaction with the film after having watching it this said time for the podcast. 4 options, all pretty straightforward. Bottom of the list, worst rating you can give it, to never watch it again. Self-explanatory. Above that is to stream it, meaning it was on a streaming service that you were already subscribed to. You were looking for something to watch, and it was this there to fill the hole of entertainment that you were consuming. Above that, rent it. Be willing to pay a few dollars to rent it whenever you would like. And then, top of the list, buy it. Drop the dough. Watch it as much as you want. I'm very, very intrigued. I will go first, and then I'll have Rob follow me up, and then Matt, you'll go last. No surprise, I own this movie. It was a movie that was on my Blu-ray wish list for the longest time, and when I finally got it, I felt a sense of satisfaction because my love for these movies is so large. And even though I recognize these movies are so incredibly flawed, if someone was like, "Hey, you want to watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll do this." I would be right there watching it. I'd be like, I'll bring my Blu-ray. Where are you at? I would jump on that so fast. I would totally rewatch this. So yeah, I bought it. I own it. I watched it again last night before the podcast. My wife and I, we sat down, we cooked our frozen pizza from the grocery store, and we watched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and it was great. And I had the time of my life. So yeah, this is a total buy because I can see myself rewatching this many, many years to come, especially with the future kids. So yeah, obvious. I thought that was pretty clear from the beginning. But Rob, I'll let you pick your poison next.
So I think this rating scale is really interesting because especially for me, because I don't purchase a lot of DVDs or Blu-rays anymore. I used to buy a ton of them, and I used to have this fantasy of how awesome it would be to have just this massive library of movies that when people come over, they just see wall to wall DVDs and Blu-rays as far as the eye can see, and just have access to any of it all the time. I just don't have the space for that. So I've really consolidated down. And to me, if I'm going to own something, to me, buying a movie, it's got to be something I'm really that passionate about. I actually don't even own that many films out of the MCU. And I don't know that I would actually go out and buy them because I just know they're going to be on Disney Plus. I'm not particularly worried about it. I would rent this movie though. So I would give, it's a 3, it's a rent for me. If this wasn't available on a streaming service and my kids were really hey Dad, let's watch that, I'd be like, all right, let's go do it. And I'd find a Redbox or whatever, wherever I could find it or do a rental through Amazon Prime. If it's $3.99 or whatever, yeah, I'd spend $3 or $4 to watch this movie again. No problem at all.
I am surprised.
Yeah.
Matt, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I almost feel like I wish Rob was in front of me. I'd want to feel his forehead because he's surprising me today with all of this. He must have a fever, but yeah, this movie for me, it's 100%. I would stream this movie, no problem, and watch it again because again, I have fun with it. Would I pay the typical, as a quick little sidebar, would I pay the typical, $19.99 Blu-ray? No. Black Friday, $5 bin at Target or Walmart, and I saw this movie, I'd 100% buy it right off the bat, no hesitation. So it's a stream with a twist of a buy, depending on how much the total was for this Blu-ray, or if it comes out in 4K, because I'm starting to get a little bit crazy about buying 4K.
Oh, 4K, sweet. I'm right there with you. I will clarify, both of these were bought used from FYE for like $5 total. So both this and the sequel. I should clarify that. Yeah.
Oh, that store is a trap, man. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Total sidebar. Before my wife and I moved, when we were living down in Provo, a different part of Utah, there was one just down the street from us at a mall. And I would go there all the time. And I'd just walk up and down the Blu-ray aisles, and my wife would be like, "Are you ready to go?" And be like, "No, not yet."
No.
Now there's not one close to us, so I haven't been in a while. Maybe I should go back. But yeah, you can get gems like these movies there.
Yeah. Harrison, if you don't mind, that's such a funny story, because probably Rob had it, like Rob remembers this, but we had media play. And I had a media play like really, really close to where I lived. Like when I was younger, I could ride my bike there in like 10 minutes. I would go there like 3 times a week. And like you said, Harrison, just like roam the DVD aisles and just stare at movies. Yeah. God, when life was simple and that was so much fun.
Yeah. I love to browse. But I'm so surprised with this Pick Your Poison. So I would definitely want to get into the next segment here, Live Up. So this, because Rob's never seen it before, but I also, assuming that all three of us had seen it before, left this segment in. So Live Up is normally when at least one individual on the show has not seen the film before, to have a chance to talk about their expectations going in, and if it was able to live up to those expectations. We are so good with names around here at the Basement Binge. But I kept this segment in, assuming that Rob had seen it, which turns out he hasn't, because I also wanted to ask some additional questions just about the nature of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because from what Rob said, from what I know about myself, it seems like this is something that these characters, these 4 turtles, are very near and dear to our hearts. So before I get into those questions, Rob, since you were the one individual who had not seen it, share with us your expectations. You kind of did in 2 cents with Tubi and it being free, but a little bit more about what your expectations were for this film, if you have more to elaborate, and if it lived up to those good or bad expectations.
Yeah. So, I think what's interesting about this particular segment is that my expectations for this coming in were, in terms of overall the pantheon of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles media, knowing that this film was on Tubi, and knowing at the time that I saw it, and knowing that it doesn't have a great rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and I hadn't heard a lot of people go, "Oh my God, the new Ninja Turtle movie is amazing." Knowing all of those things, my expectations for this was going to probably be that in the pantheon of Ninja Turtles media, it would probably rank somewhere above the original NES 8-bit water level and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3: Turtles in Time. Like, I sort of thought it'd fall in between there. Probably not as bad as the water level in the original 8-bit game, but probably not as good as even the third live-action Ninja Turtles movie that's pretty much a pile of dog crap. And this movie vastly exceeded my expectations. It was fun. The characters were interesting and well written. At least the Turtles were. Some of their interaction with one another was really good. They have an opportunity to talk about how it's all about family, and I immediately went, "Oh man, where's Dom? We got to get him. We got to get him in the Charger and have him come pick these guys up." But I believed all that, and I think part of it is just knowing who these characters are already before this film starts, and having ideas about who they really are. That might have influenced me a little bit more into seeing some of what they were, because honestly, these guys aren't on screen anywhere near as much as you would think they would be. Like, this movie kind of starts off as an April O'Neil movie. And then eventually we get, I want to say it's about 25 minutes in before we actually get the Turtles. But it's fun, it's really fun. And I found myself, pretty happy when the film was over, and it vastly exceeded my expectations.
Well, there we go. This is so This is music to my ears. 'Cause I agree with just about everything you said. Before I get into my questions about living up to the legacy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I want to talk a little bit about what Rob just said. How I think it's so interesting that we know this is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, who accidentally ended up watching this movie either in the theater or on their TV at home and being surprised, like, oh, this is a movie about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Like, why make it all suspicious? Like, why go for the lane of it being an April O'Neil movie where she's trying to figure out who they are? It definitely fits with the lane of Transformers, like Matt pointed out, and also the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie with the rubber suits. Very kind of similar to that, where it's elusive. They're in the shadows before they're revealed. And I kind of get that. But at the same time, like, I'm going to a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies in 2014 to see the Turtles. And I thought it was a weird choice to wait that long to give us the Turtles, but I also understand that. So I'm kind of, I don't know, just undecided about that. But I do think it's interesting that that was the choice. I mean, they even have this huge title that says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, nobody had a doubt that at some point there was going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the screen. Like, that is the most campy, ridiculous thing ever. But we try and like treat it with some level of seriousness. Yeah, Matt, do you have any thoughts about that before I move on to my questions?
Yeah, I mean, when this movie, first came out, obviously, Michael Bay, think what you want about him. A lot of people do. And I didn't have a ton of expectations for this, but like, I knew I wanted to see it regardless. I kind of felt I felt like I knew what I was getting myself into, but I had a real desire to see the movie because growing up, I mean, even though it would cause kids to rage throw controllers, that original Turtles game.
It's me. I'm kids.
Yeah, like the side scroller Turtles game in the arcade, Turtles in Time, which is like one of my favorite games of all time. I actually still have in the basement at my mother's house is a box of my Turtles. I still have all of my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys from when I was a kid. Like, I just never got them from her house when I moved from one house to another, because I had some stuff in storage over there while I was moving. But yeah, I just wanted to see this movie, and I think Rob alluded to this. Some of my childhood memories of Turtles like really allows me to see past some of just the ridiculousness of this movie and some of the ridiculous dialogue that happens where I don't understand how somebody wrote it. They did like a table reading and then they saw it in the editing room and went, yeah, we should keep that. But I'm willing to give a lot of it a pass.
Yeah, I really agree with you. So let me get into my questions here, because I think all of us are giving it that same like pass. So Rob talked a little bit about it in his 2 cents. Matt just talked about it. The Turtles for me, obviously I'm a lot younger, but the Ninja Turtles for me started where at my grandma's house, she has a pool. We'd go swimming there every 4th of July, every Memorial Day, every summer holiday. We would have a big swim party, and even just on the weekends in the summer, we'd go swimming, and the adults would be swimming, and me and my younger brother, we'd swim for a little bit. We'd dry ourselves off with our towels. We'd go down in their basement that was freezing cold and eat drumstick like ice cream cones and watch a VHS of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I can't remember what it is right now. I looked it up the other day and I forgot, but it was one of those VHSs that had like 2 episodes on it, so to speak. 2 short movies or episodes. I'm not sure what you call it. And we watched it every time. That, and then we'd watch the Jetsons movie on VHS. Both of them, every time. Every time we'd go swimming, I guess part of the tradition is my brother and I had to go down there and sit on the freezing cold couch with our towels as blankets watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I loved it. And so that love for them continued. I had games. My brother and I, we had toys. I remember, total side story. Actually, no, I'll save that for later. I had toys. I loved the Ninja Turtles. And it was just something that was like, yeah, the Ninja Turtles. Who doesn't love the Ninja Turtles? And so anyway, fast forward to like 2017, 2018, must have been 2017. 2017, I was starting to watch new movies because I took this big hiatus from watching like any new movie. Like I was like, oh, new movies are stupid. Like I didn't even go to the theaters. Anyway, so I started to watch new movies. What was I missing? And I was like, oh, they made a new Ninja Turtles movie. And I was all excited. So I was sitting completely alone in my basement. I think it was streaming on Prime or something. I don't know if I rented it, whatever. I ended up watching it. And I just had a huge grin on my face the whole time. I mean, whether the turtles were sliding down that snow hill, or they were making jokes, or beatboxing in the elevator, or they were doing ninja stuff that even though they were so bad at it, I was just, this is awesome. Like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. And I was just so excited by it. And I realize, especially talking to two of you now, that it was just so fun to see these characters that have just belonged in my heart, that I've loved, that I've reenacted with my brother so many times. I've called myself Leonardo, and my brother was Michelangelo hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And so having those same characters that I love just on screen allows me to be like, oh yeah, this writing is really bad and it focuses on April O'Neil so much, and that's kind of dumb, and like, Shredder, what's up with that? But the turtles, and it's just so easy to love the turtles. So my question to the two of you is, with all of that, clearly we both love the turtles. I think, and I've since my childhood consumed other Ninja Turtles content, whether it's a video game or the cartoons. I watched so many of those cartoons, or the first live action movies that were made. Obviously, there's a love that is there for the Ninja Turtles. What is it about this film? So I have two questions. The first one, what is it about this film that really lives up to that love for the turtles? Like, what is it about this film that makes it a good Ninja Turtles movie? And what is it about this film that makes it a bad Ninja Turtles movie? Like, why isn't this the greatest Ninja Turtles movie ever made? Why isn't it as near and dear to us as maybe the side-scrolling game you just mentioned, or whatever? So, kind of two-part question. What about this? Yeah, I'm so long-winded. Those are my two questions. Matt, I'll let you answer first.
Well, for me, what works is like the turtles. There was a lot of negativity when their designs were first leaked. I don't know if you guys remember that at all, but man, there was so much negativity about the turtles are too big, they look ridiculous. I found myself thinking that when I first saw this movie, but then over time, I just came to accept it. But the dynamic of these brothers, when you actually you literally take everything else and you strip that away, and if you just focus on the turtles as the four of them, and even Splinter, as terrible as he looks in this movie, and I think he looks horrible. I'd rather actually hold a real rat in my hand than look at him on screen. But they're that family dynamic is actually really, really good. It's four brothers who have four very different personalities, but they are brothers. They are blood, and they come together when they need to. They fight when they need to. They joke when they need to. And it actually all feels, and again, I don't think Michael Bay is really good at this, so that surprises me a lot. It really works. Nothing feels overstayed here. The tension between Leonardo and Raphael, which we know, anybody who knows Turtles knows that there's always tension there, but that doesn't feel like it's forced. It feels very organic. Even Michelangelo, he feels very organic, like he should be that type of, goof in this movie. So I think he really nailed the dynamic of the turtles. And when you focus on that aspect of the movie, I really don't see a lot of flaws in terms of how they are portrayed as brothers.
Wow. Well said. Rob, do you want to follow up with, how this lives up to that? Why it's a good Ninja Turtles movie?
Even just the beginning of this, the comic style intro we get to it, because this Ninja Turtles started way, way, way back as just a black and white comic. So I sort of love that even that intro. I think Matt said it beautifully. The dynamic between the brothers. I think having familiarity with these characters over the years really makes it sink in even more. Like, I wonder if somebody who had not seen anything Ninja Turtles, would they have really picked up on the real meaning behind Leo and Raph's tension between each other? Like, we got it because we know that that's what that is. And I thought it worked well, but I would really love to talk to somebody who had seen this movie and never seen Ninja Turtles before and see if they really felt like it worked as well. Things like Michelangelo being kind of goofy, but he's actually really funny. Like, he's not goofy annoying. Like, he's not goofy in a we're trying too hard. Like, we're sitting in the writing room and we're trying to be like, okay, guys, what can we make Michelangelo say that's really funny? Sometimes in other Ninja Turtles, shows and comics and movies, it almost feels like they're trying too hard with him. And this time it did feel like, I think Matt said, organic. And I think that really is, a great way to put it. But the turtles are fun, when you get them together and the four of them, they're shells against the wall and they have to, be there for each other. I believe it works. In terms of things that don't make it the greatest Ninja Turtle movies ever. Well, first of all, it doesn't have a Vanilla Ice song. There is no Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. If they had that, it would probably be, maybe my favorite Turtles movie of all time. We talked about some of the screenwriting is pretty bad. I don't know that I love Shredder in this.
Megatron. He's Megatron.
He's exactly Megatron.
Shredder.
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning of this movie, wow, he's really menacing. But then, he just kind of shoots knives. Okay. I don't know, but I'll say this. I actually really do like the character designs for this. I think that it really does make these guys unique. It shows their personality. It shows the difference in their personality, because this movie, like we've said, doesn't spend enough time actually showing us the turtles. For some reason, they think we want just a Megan Fox movie with 4 green CGI characters, which we don't. But I really think the opportunity to have each character dressed differently, instead of just giving them 4 different weapons and 4 different colored masks, which, by the way, in the original, way back in the day, they all wore red masks. And I want to say it was when they were pitching it as a cartoon. Basically, in the old days, cartoons just served as like 22-minute long infomercials to make you go buy the toys. They thought it'd be easier to sell more toys if they looked different. So that's why they have 4 different colored masks instead of all red ones. I think more than just giving them different colored masks and different color or different types of weapons, the actual designs really actually made them feel the most unique and the most, I don't know, where we got to really understand their personality a little bit more of anything we've seen from the Turtles.
Yeah, I'm going to add on with you. I really, really agree. From the moment we're introduced to the turtles, like when April takes the picture of them and they're like, what was that? And they like freeze mid high five and the interaction as it pans around them. That's great. When the tunnel sliding that they do constantly, Mikey, everything he says makes me laugh. My wife wasn't laughing, but I was. And I was like, oh, it's so funny. And she's like, what's funny? I was like, he's just funny. And if it wasn't Mikey saying those things, it probably wouldn't be funny. But because it's Mikey and I know who Mikey is, it's funny. Like genuinely. His rocket skateboard. Oh my gosh, that was like right out of my childhood brain. The way that like when they're in the Hashi and Raph is like, I'm not breaking if I think he says Donnie's not breaking or something like that. I think he makes fun of Donnie. And just those types of things. The way that on Raph's shell, there's a little, in Japanese, it says Mikey was here. And things like that. All my love that I've had for these characters and the way that I've made them up brothers in my mind, whether I was watching a cartoon or playing with toys, is completely on screen here. I talked about that elevator scene earlier where they're beatboxing, like that is such a fun scene. And every time I watch it, I love it. And then I'm surprised, like, this isn't a movie. Like, this isn't a main blockbuster movie made by the same company who really struggled to give the characters of the Autobots personality in the Transformers movies. And here we are with like a 30-second scene, 100% devoted to personality of the ninjas or of the turtles. And it works so well. Additionally, the action, I realize that most of it is CGI, and most of it, as in probably all of it. And especially after coming off a movie like Snake Eyes, where it's shaked up and chopped to oblivion. This, it's so fluid in a way that can only feel like childlike creativity and imagination. And it lends to the idea that these are Ninja Turtles fighting the Foot Clan so well, and it just makes it feel like I'm reliving this sense of wonder and the sense of fun that the Ninja Turtles always brought out in me. And I'm saying these things because it does all these things so well. Yeah, I'll talk about it more in falling in that end scene where Raph is talking about being brothers. Like I feel that scene a lot because these really do feel like brothers, or when they're running around because they've got too much adrenaline. Like, there's just so much like, yeah, these are my guys. These are my 4 dudes that I know so well, and it really works. So we get that works so well. But I want to transition to the things that, why is this not a good Ninja Turtles movies? Rob kind of talked about this already, and I'll add on. It's just Shredder. You can tell was Sax, whatever his name is, I forget his first name, was clearly supposed to be Shredder. And you can tell the reshoots were done so that some Asian individual was Shredder, and he's menacing until he's just a guy in a robot suit. And it's where is this like campy, annoying, thorn in the side Shredder that I'm so used to from the cartoons? And everything with Shredder just really doesn't work for me, and it's a bummer because Shredder. I mean, he's Shredder. Anyway, thoughts from you about why it doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally in agreement, and Rob, I think I said that to you, because I hadn't realized that you hadn't seen this movie either. But if you go back and find like the very first trailer for this movie, I think it is crystal clear that William Fichtner was supposed to be Shredder. There's even a scene in the very first trailer where he's looking at a suit of armor, and it's not even the same. It's not even like the suit that we get. It's a completely like streamlined Shredder suit. So it was kind of weird to me that they went and made the decision to what looks like, again, I've never had this 100% confirmed. But there's no doubt in my mind that they went back and decided against that for whatever reason. I don't know if they were getting backlash on it or what. But Shredder he doesn't work in this movie for me. I did not need to see a Megatron ripoff from Transformers in the form of Shredder. He's so big, he's so bulky, he's so robotic, pun intended, that it doesn't work. Michael Bay's obsession with having military-like people in his movies. I mean, the Foot Clan is supposed to be ninjas, and halfway, for the majority of the movie, they have guns. But then for some reason, when they infiltrate the sewer, they have like billy clubs. Okay. They just, decide that they need different weapons and don't use guns. And then when the Turtles go to stop Shredder, they have guns again. So really, like, Shredder and the Foot Clan for me don't work at all in this movie. The opposition to the Turtles is what doesn't work.
Yeah, especially to speak on that a little bit, especially with the first live action film, just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Foot Clan was almost like a complete foil to the Brotherhood that the Turtles had, where it was like a misfits and people who don't belong, feeling like they belong with this guy who clearly is just manipulating them, as is in Shredder. It was a great foil. And now here it's just like we just got this paramilitary group they just want control of New York, and it really loses that.
Yeah, and to kind of jump off of that for a second, one of the things that always annoys me in modern action movies is kind of when the movie forgets that guns exist because it needs it for the plot. Like, Matt really nailed it right when he was talking about it. And I think having the Foot Clan be more of kind of like a paramilitary group as opposed to a group of ninjas right out of the gate, when I saw that, it really did turn me off a lot about some of the decisions that they were making. And I think that definitely contributes to this not being a great, all-time Turtles movie. The Shredder decisions, just he stopped being menacing right out of the gate. After we get introduced to him, and you're thinking, okay, where's this going? And then he's just an Ironmonger knockoff that shoots knives, and then they're magnetic somehow. Like, I don't know. It got to be so dumb. Like even the campiness that we get with Turtles, like it went beyond that and just into the realm of just kind of dumb. That part really didn't work. And I gotta say, like, for a villain, Sax is kind of lousy too. Like, there's the scene towards the end where he's shooting at Will Arnett's character and April. This guy does not know how guns work. Like, not at all. Like, not even a little bit. Like, it's pretty obvious he's got no familiarity with how these things work. Because it's terrible. And it's kind of scene breaking for me. And also, this plot is really unnecessarily complicated. So you're telling me you've got this mutagen that you're gonna. So we've seen this before in other movies, by the way. Like, people are going to cash in on the cure. They're going to make this terrible disease, and they're going to sell the cure and make lots of money off of it. Well, the way they're introducing this mutagen is that it's kind of like a miracle drug, and instead of killing a bunch of people with a disease that you have to make up, why don't you just, I don't know, cure cancer? Like, I feel like you could probably make a lot of money doing that. I don't know. Seems like that's something people would pay for. Seems like that's something that's impacting like everybody. So like, you don't have to do nerve gas to get to that. Like, those kinds of things. Like I said, I refer to it as like scene breaking. Like, it's bad.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, can I just, we're talking about dialogue, and can I point out how you said he doesn't know how to use a gun? I don't think I've maybe heard a line that sounded so serious that is so bad than when he says, "We will drain every ounce of their blood, even if it kills them." I mean, I've never gone to medical school. I couldn't, I couldn't save somebody's life probably. But I think I would know that if you drained every single ounce of my blood out of my body, I would die.
I definitely caught that too. Yeah.
When he says that, every time and that's what I'm referring to sometimes with some of these lines is like, how did you write this, read it, and then allow it to stay in the movie? And if that's the line that you ended up on because you cut something else, my God, I'd love to see the original script pages.
It's something that when I see, I'm like, oh yeah, this is intended to be a kid's movie. But then there's other things I'm like, why do we have both? These two don't work together. Like, one that you're trying to be like an adult film. I mean, it's also rated PG-13. It's not like people are taking their 6-year-olds to this. I mean, some people do, but generically, 6-year-olds aren't going to be in the theater. That we don't need a line that says we're going to kill the turtles. Like, we're smart enough to know they're taking away their blood. They're going to die. Yeah, great mention there, Matt.
I mean, listen, when I give blood, I get dizzy, and that's just like, I don't know. What do they take, a pint? Like, and that makes me dizzy to the point where I have to sit down. Yeah, like I have to sit down for the rest of the day. Like, yeah, they're going to take all of it. They're going to take it all.
I do love too how like April's just able to show up to this guy's house. He's supposedly this like rich, powerful man who helps like protect and fund the city, and he's like, she just randomly shows up to his house to talk about the fact that like, oh, the turtles, and what if they weren't gone, and tell me about this. And again, just like the weird dumb dialogue where he's like, like, oh, tell me about this. Project Renaissance was supposed to be this cure drug, and we were going to change the world. And then she shows him that the turtles are alive, and his next line is, do you really want to know about Project Renaissance? It was like, what did you just talk about? Like, what do you mean? Like, oh man, some of the dialogue on this is so bad. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I want to touch on one thing that you just mentioned. Why? I mean, maybe you two don't have a complaint about this, but why did they decide to make them April's pets? Like, what was wrong with just the ooze? What was wrong with that? The idea that April knew them, that she named them, that they were involved in this whole thing from the beginning, goodness, between her dad and Sax and the fire and yada, yada, yada. And it's just like, why? Why can't we just, I mean, why can't they just be turtles who lived in a sewer that ooze went in and now they're giant? What's wrong?
Yeah.
You know, I definitely picked up a lot of that. And the only thing that popped into my head, and I don't know if this is true, I don't know if it's not, but when you're trying to get, you know, so your headliner on this movie is Megan Fox. Like, you know, that's your headliner.
True.
And to get her involved, you know, to entice her to be a part of this project, to lend that credibility of, you know, an A-list Hollywood name, you know, maybe you make her character more important. Maybe you make the first half hour of the movie about her character on a movie called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not April from Channel 6 News. Like, I don't know. That's the one thing that I kept wondering, because I had that same question. Like, I didn't need that to connect that way. Like, I was perfectly fine with all of the other ways we've seen it. Like, that to me didn't add anything to the lore of Ninja Turtles. That didn't add anything to this movie. It just seemed like they were, I don't know, trying to keep everything so tied together in a way that actually, like, if you cut all of that, it doesn't change the movie in any way at all.
No, not at all.
Can I ask a quick sidebar question too?
Of course.
This movie came out what year originally?
2014.
2014? Yeah. Even back in 2014, who the heck liked Pizza Hut?
What New York respecting man orders Pizza Hut?
They had like 39,000 boxes in that sewer of Pizza Hut. It was unbelievable.
They got the 99 cheese pizza, man.
Yeah, right. 99 cheese pizza.
I don't even think 99 different cheeses exist.
I was actually, total sidebar, I was looking it up, some trivia about this. Some chef who loves the Ninja Turtles in Australia saw this movie, saw the 99 cheese pizza, and made one. He made like 94 cheeses and melted them all down into one like block, and then used that to make the cheese, and then sprinkled 4 additional cheeses on top. And Paramount was so impressed with him that they brought him to the launch event for the DVD and Blu-ray release.
If you eat a 99 cheese pizza, you are never leaving the bathroom. Your entire life is spent there.
I'm lactose intolerant, so I'm never going anywhere near that thing. But I'm pretty sure everyone else who eats it will join me as being lactose intolerant.
Like, oh man, it was. I remember seeing that when that first came out. I'm like, who likes Pizza Hut? Like what? Like what?
Yeah, gotta love product placement. One other thing that I want to say about the idea that Rob was saying, that you can cut the connection that they have with April, and it doesn't change the movie at all. Especially very puny spoiler for the next film that we're going to do next week. The next villain is I'm forgetting his name now. Oh my gosh, Krang. Thank you. Is Krang, and then we also have Bebop and Rocksteady, which is awesome. They're great, but it's like, how did we go from a mutagen that made these turtles' lives to like Krang? It just is. It doesn't work in the same way, which is really interesting. And you know, the Ninja Turtles lore is weird. Like, it's just filled with weird characters, villains and heroes. Why not just let it be weird? Which I think is a downside why this isn't the strongest. So we're going to move on from that section because I want to get into the other segments. But to finish out this live up segment with these random questions I was asking, I have to know kind of 2 questions. One, this may be a difficult question. Who is your favorite turtle of the 4? And 2, in this movie, is it still your favorite? Like, did this movie make you like one more than you did before? Does that make sense? What I'm asking, the second question. Okay. All right. So, Rob, you go first.
So I've always been Team Donatello because I've always felt in the cartoons he was underratedly funny. And I always liked that he was kind of the smart guy. And then also because in the Ninja Turtle games, the bow staff was always the longest weapon, so you usually had a little bit of an advantage. So I was always kind of repping Donatello a little bit back in the day. I actually feel like of the four of them, he probably gets the least amount of stuff to do on screen. I feel like of the four, he's probably fleshed out the least. So I got to say, I was a little disappointed with that. Definitely was. I've always been a big fan of Raphael. I've actually really found him to be. In most cases, I usually think his writing is even funnier than Michelangelo's, and I really liked what they did with him here.
Yeah. Real quickly before Matt answers, because I'll have you go next. For like Ninja Turtle noobs, Donatello, he's purple. He has a bow staff. In this film, he's kind of the tech guy that has all the technology over his shell and does all the hacking and whatnot. Michelangelo is the orange guy with the nunchucks who's in love with April O'Neil. And then Raphael is a red guy with the size who's like, big and tough. And then Leonardo, he has in this film a katana and he's blue and he's kind of the leader in this film, but he's the leader. So yeah, there. If you don't know anything about Ninja Turtles, there you go. But yes, I agree with what you said, Rob. So Matt, on to you.
Yeah, I have always been partial to Raphael, and it's not only because of just the movies originally back then, but if you read like the original comics, and Rob, I think you can attest to this, there's some pretty like serious graphic novels for the Turtles. The graphic novels aren't very campy for Turtles. There's some pretty serious stories. And I think, I think Raph is written incredibly well in a lot of those. Also, too, I agree with you, Rob. I think sometimes he is one of the funnier ones out of the group. In the movies, I certainly thought he was incredibly funny in the first Turtles movie, all the way back in, 1990. I thought he was actually pretty funny in that movie. So I've always liked him. And again, I really like how he was written in this movie as well.
So I will go last here, and to sum this up, my favorite turtle is Leonardo, but I have a soft spot for Raph as well, because when I was a kid, my brother and I, we both got Ninja Turtle toys. He got Michelangelo, who was his favorite, and I got Raphael, and I was like, no, this isn't Leonardo, and I was so upset. And I don't know if you ever did this as a kid, like you got a toy that wasn't the one you wanted, but you couldn't have the one you wanted, so you just looked at the one you got, like trying to convince yourself it's what you wanted. Every time I got out Raphael to play with him, I was like, this isn't Leonardo. And then I like try and convince myself that Raphael is cool. Anyway, I was a dumb little kid. Leonardo, I have such a soft spot for him. But I feel like, if I'm being honest, everybody just kind of has like the generic characterizations about them, like Leonardo kind of being the leader and the leader. Donatello being the smart guy, and then Michelangelo just being the goof, the youngest one who likes pizza the most, and then Raphael being like the tough guy. Like they have those generic things about them, but I think Raphael actually has some really, really great writing in this film, particularly as like the tough guy learning to accept help from others. I think he is the one. I mean, if the theme here, which we'll get to in Fallen, is about accepting help and working as a team, it is most fleshed out through the character of Raphael, and it makes me wish that I liked the toy more that I had when I watched this movie. I'm like, man, I shouldn't have been so hard on Raphael. He's great. Yeah. So any other things we want to mention about our love for turtles before we move on to binge points, or anything else about the film that, about living up to expectations you want to add on?
No.
I think we've, I think maybe some things will come out in the next segment, but no, I feel like we've done a pretty good job.
I do too. So let's move on to the next segment, binge points. So these are Easter eggs, details, fun trivia about the film. Obviously, there's lots of things because we love the turtles. Behind the scenes stuff, if we want to mention that. I both love and hate how much this film references the history of Ninja Turtles. Like the pizza slice falling on Splinter's head, or Shredder saying, "Tonight I dine on turtle soup," or the way that the turtles live in the sewer, and Splinter finds a book, which originally he found the books to name them, but in this he found the books to teach them martial arts. So like kind of self-referential. Those types of things. I mean, they have the car and it shows up and it plays their little theme. Will Arnett's character says heroes in the half shell. I mean, like, also, why did he say that? Like, who calls turtles half shells? I've never heard of that outside of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So when he says that, I'm like, what? Like, Who would just quip that off the top of their head? But yeah, any binge points that two of you want to add?
Just kind of on that, there was definitely some times where I felt like it was almost a little bit of too much of an overabundance of trying to shoehorn in that turtles, lingo. When they first said cowabunga, like that felt like, remember that thing that you said you weren't going to do? Well, go ahead and do it now, or whatever that line was. Like, I don't know. I think maybe this is one of those things that in a theater, and Matt, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit with the Mortal Kombat review. When he finally says, like, get over here, like, probably in the theater, like if you were with a packed group of people who were there because they're like massive fans, like the first time they say cowabunga, or when they say any of these lines, like people would probably lose their minds. Like they would just be cheering and dancing in the aisles and everybody's excited about it. But when you're sitting on your couch, it really it falls flat. Like there's not that energy of everybody in the room that's so excited to hear that catchphrase. So to me, that was, another reason why, like going back to what we were talking about, why is this not the best Turtles movie of all time? When they try to shoehorn in some of those things, it largely falls flat on its face.
Agreed.
Yeah. I don't want to repeat. So I'm just going to say I agree with that portion because it's 100% accurate.
Cool. I don't really have any other binge points. I was looking through my notes here. I don't know where else to add this, so I'm just going to say it now. This film surprised me with like how hard this score goes. Like this score is intense, and I actually kind of like it. But it starts, the movie starts, and the Paramount logo's coming up, and the stars. I'm like, oh yeah, this totally seems like a Transformers movie with the score. But then the things it does, I actually really liked. But I was constantly surprised. Like, man, this score is intense. I'm just saying that now because I don't know where else to say it.
No, I actually, I will save everything for the next, review of Out of the Shadows. But I think when you watch these movies like I did back to back, or we're going to watch them in relatively a short time span to, talk about the second movie, the soundtrack to this one sounds much more original than what you get in Out of the Shadows. It almost is a carbon copy of another movie. So I really actually noticed it on this watch through and watching these back to back.
Well, there you go. I'm excited to watch Out of the Shadows now. Do either of you have any binge points before we move on?
Real quick, did you know that at the 35th Golden Raspberry Awards, this film was nominated for Worst Picture, Worst Prequel, Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel, Worst Director, Worst Screenplay, and Worst Supporting Actress for Megan Fox, which she actually won the Golden Raspberry for that. And I'd have to go back and look at everything that was released this year, or the year that this came out. That seems a bit harsh, doesn't it? Am I missing something? Was 2015 just all bangers?
I feel like that's blind hate for Michael Bay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Michael Bay, say what you want about him, and there's a lot of things you can say about him. There's times, though, where it's just not warranted. Like, he's got a film on Netflix right now with Ryan Reynolds called Six Underground, where they make the most Michael Bay possible movie ever. And it's actually really, really good. I can't recommend that movie enough. It's got crazy good action scenes, and it just reminds you that sometimes, like, this guy actually does do a great job with certain things he does.
Yeah, I think he does have some actually really good films. I think The Island is one of them. I think Pain and Gain is one of them. I have a soft spot for the Bad Boys movies. I think those are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't do the third one, but the first two. But yeah, I think all of those nominations are just, I think they're blind hate because I know we could go back and look at all the movies that were made in 2014 and look at some of those categories, and I'm sure there are things that should be up there way before this movie.
I agree. And on the note of this being a Michael Bay production, I think there's one explosion. No, there's two. There's two explosions, and they're both done in.
I don't think
they are done in an actually useful way. So I appreciate the restraint. One other binge point that I had here that I think is totally interesting. Within 2 weeks of the film's release in the United States, it was given the green light for a sequel. And I'm just so intrigued. Like, what type of box office? I'm trying to pull up Box Office Mojo right here. Did this film have to get that in 2 weeks? Like, that's a short amount of time. So let me pull it up here super quick. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Is 2 weeks? That just seems really fast.
No, I think too. It had a pretty good opening weekend. I think it was, geez, I want to say something like 60 million or something like that. Like, I thought it had actually like a really good opening.
Oh yeah, 65 million. You were close.
Yeah, a pretty good opening, especially back for 2014, especially like the month that it came out. So I think they were just kind of surprised at like, oh, because I think it was projected. Again, like if I remember, if we Googled all of this information, I think it was only projected to do like 25 to 30 million opening weekend. And boom, it hits for 65 million. Did pretty good. You had some pretty good legs with it. So, and it didn't have a crazy budget. So it was like, yeah, we could definitely make a sequel out of this.
Oh yeah, the $125 million budget. Opening weekend was 65 million. So within 2 weeks, they're already more than halfway to their budget with a worldwide gross of almost 500 million. So yeah, I guess it's not as crazy as I thought. Which, to my surprise, wow, this movie did really good in its opening, like way better than I thought it did. Which I'm happy because, as you can tell, I have a soft spot for this movie. So if there's no other binge points, let's move on to the last two segments here. So least and likes. This is our least favorite scene, favorite scene. Who wants to go first with their least favorite scene? Any volunteers, or I'll pick on someone.
I'll go ahead. So least favorite scene. There's a couple of scenes that we've talked about that really don't work. One we haven't had a chance to really get into, and it's really right towards the beginning. And I think for me, this sort of set the tone for how the rest of the film was going to be written. And it's the scene in the newsroom. And April shows up. And if you describe this scene in generalizations without actually giving specifics, you realize how many hundreds of times you've seen this in films, comics, TV shows, video games. The person has a crazy experience, shows up, tells other people about crazy experience. They doubt her. She is insistent of this crazy thing that she has witnessed or been a part of. And they laugh and they make fun of her only to then be proven right later on. Like, we've seen this 100 million times, and they didn't even bother to try to do anything new with it. They waste Whoopi Goldberg as kind of more of a cameo. Like, she's in the film a couple times, but it was basically like one day's worth of shooting. They probably got it all done in, and they kind of wasted using her. There's probably other scenes in the film that are actually worse than this, but for me, I want to highlight this one is one that just right out of the gate, you went, you couldn't have cleaned this up any better. You couldn't have given us at least something new out of this scene.
Ditto. 100% took the words right out of my mouth. Matt, do you have a different one?
Yeah. I think the end fight with Shredder is actually really bad. Not in terms of, I think when you actually like watch when they're fighting, there's actually some pretty good stuff there. But the whole way that they take him down, so to speak, when they first kick him off the building is pretty terrible because it's a callback to like the very beginning of the movie, which kind of to me means, which means nothing. And then again, because hey, let's make her important in the movie. First of all, the turtles are like supposed to be these super strong, creatures. Her arm would have been ripped out of the socket while she's hanging from that
exact same thought.
Her arm would be ripped out, but it's like, swing me to Shredder, and she kicks Shredder off of the beam. I just thought that whole like last part was just so bad. I really did not enjoy it at all. Because again, like, it's supposed to be Shredder, and I know that up until that point, I wasn't really impressed with him, but you could have at least had that last fight with the turtles be good.
I would agree with you. There are definitely parts about that scene that I like. Like the action, I think is actually really well made. I love the fluidity of this action, that it being mostly CGI really lends. But outside of that, it's like, yeah, that end scene is really weak. So with that, let's move on to our favorite scene. I have a clear favorite for this movie, so I'm going to go last. Matt, we'll just go back in reverse order.
Yeah, I mean, it would be easy to say. I think the mountain scene with the avalanche and everything. I actually think that is really well done. And the trailer with, I was actually disappointed in the music choice that they used for that, because if you watch the trailer, they have a certain song that they played during that scene, which I thought fit it really well. But it would be easy for me to pick that scene. However, I love the scene where Shredder infiltrates the lair, not because of the fight, but because of what we talked about earlier. And it shows the dynamic of this family where, Splinter cares about, even April. We talked about, like, why does she have to be connected in that way? But he cares about her because he knows that she rescued them. He cares about getting those guys out because they're his sons. But then as he locks them out, the turtles are not going to have that. They need to get back to their father. They're worried about him. They, find the strength to lift up the sewer grate and go back to try to rescue him. I think that scene's actually really well done because, again, it encompasses the dynamic of why I think this movie is actually good. And again, my just surprise at how the turtles were written to seem like they actually are four brothers.
Real quick, all-time father-son dynamics in movies. Splinter and the Turtles, like, up there, right? Like when you think of the most important, most powerful, most compelling father-son relationships that you can think of in movies, just across all the movies we've seen, Splinter with the Turtles is, for me, it's right up there. Like, I'm thinking like Simba and Mufasa. Like that's like one of the other ones that jumps right out at me. Like, that it matters and is powerful, and you can feel the love there. Because usually, for whatever reason, on screen, a lot of times dads are not really perceived real well or portrayed real well. I don't know why that is, but it's just like it just really struck me.
If you've ever seen The Mist with Thomas Jane, he's the worst father ever.
Oh wow! Wow! Yeah. Yep.
But
yeah. So favorite scene. It's funny. You both talked about that elevator scene. I mean, it's short, it's silly, it's just so much fun. Like, Mikey starts doing his thing, and at any minute, I'm expecting Raph or Leo to like yell at him to stop, and then they just all sort of jump in, and it's funny. Like, I specifically made a note about how much I enjoyed that, and I just sort of thought it's almost like a throwaway scene, but it's really it just works really well. I mean, both you guys had talked about it. I actually want to talk about the scene where they're in punishment, having to balance and train this whole time. I mean, we've seen that in other movies. Splinter makes them do backflips for punishment and things like that, and I think this was sort of a natural extension of that when you've got a little more ability, because they are CG. You can actually do some stuff that you can't do when you've got guys in rubber suits. Which, by the way, I'd seen something a long time ago that, like, if you have anthropomorphic turtles, there's actually no way they could do ninjutsu because the weight of their shells just completely throws the balance off. Like, they couldn't flip, they couldn't jump, they couldn't do any of this. So if you were looking for me to ruin something, boom, there it is. I've got you. I wasn't going to let you down, Harrison. But no, the scene where they're getting punished, like, it's just it's just actually a lot of fun. They're not going to be the first one to break. They're going to keep holding it out, and somebody else has to break first. And I thought it was a fun scene, and I really enjoyed it.
I would agree with both of the scenes that you mentioned. The one that I have to pick, though, I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't, is the scene that Matt mentioned on the mountain in the snow. I have probably watched that scene, not the movie, but just that scene, over 100 times. There is something about that scene that just I love. I love the fluidity of the action. I love that the turtles are sliding on their shells. I love the way that the turtles are learning to work together while also being totally independent. I love the slow-mo that just makes no sense, that Mikey flips a car with his bow staff. Like, how does that work? I don't know. How did his bow staff not just explode? But that's great. Yeah, the way that they slide underneath the truck, you like that GoPro shot on Donnie right before he slingshots Raph. I just love it. The way it ends. Mikey's like, "Oh no, they were so young," and then Raph just slides by. They're not dead yet, numbnuts. I like that scene from the moment the truck starts to tip over backwards. It is a scene that is one of my favorites in movie history, and I can't particularly explain why, but there's something about it that I just love. And inspires me to make fun, engaging, but also kind of ridiculous action that you watch and you're like, yeah, that was fun. And everybody has a good time with it. I love that scene. I'm probably going to watch it again after this. I'm also going to watch the trailer for what Matt mentioned and see what song choice that was. And I'm very intrigued. So, yeah. But I agree with you. The scenes you mentioned, the strongest parts of this movie are the scenes with the turtles, like we talked about earlier. So, before we get into the last segment, Fall In, where we talk about the themes, the messages, takeaways from the film, let's reveal the Rotten by each giving our rating out of 5 reels. I will go first because I think that mine is an easy pass. I give it a solid 4 out of 5 reels. That obviously we've talked about the parts that are weak in the story, in some of the characters, particularly the human characters. April O'Neil trying to be more important than she should be. But it is so easy for me to forget about those. I put a note down when watching this movie that's like, oh, wow, I really just remembered the fun parts and the good parts, and revisiting it reminded me that, oh, yeah, there's other parts of this movie that aren't as good, but I'm going to keep on remembering just the good and fun parts because it's so easy for me to enjoy this movie. I really would never say no to watching it. So, yeah, 4 out of 5 reels for me. Matt, will you go next?
Yeah, I would rate this, and I do rate this at 3.5 reels. So it's fun. Again, there's some logical gaps in this movie, but at the end of the day, I have fun with it. I don't need it to be, art for me to enjoy the movie. If at the end of it, I say I had a good time, that's what's important to me. I have 100 other movies that I can watch to say, oh my God, that story was so great. The dialogue was fantastic. Sometimes I just want to have a good time and, shove popcorn, or as I did watching this one, eat Doritos. So that's, I give this 3.5.
All right, Rob, the close is out here.
Yeah. So before I get to my rating, Matt's your rating's a little lower than I was expecting it to be. I'm surprised. But I think I think to piggyback off of what Matt was saying, there's times in your life where you're hungry for a well-crafted steak and a beautiful potato just completely done up. Sometimes that's what you really want to eat. That doesn't mean you don't also like some KFC that you're just going to mow down. It's not any good, but you're still going to eat it because you enjoy it. This movie is not a well-crafted steak. It's not even close. But it's still a ton of fun to eat. It's still a ton of fun to consume. I've got it at 3.75. So Matt is actually the lowest, which surprised me. It shocked me. From the moment we started talking about this, I was just assuming I was going to be the lowest. I mean, I just knew it in my heart of hearts that I would be the lowest. But it's when the turtle dynamic is as fun as it is, you just overlook how much else doesn't work. You overlook the fact that they try to make this more about April than it needs to be. You overlook how bad Shredder is. You overlook how much of that last scene really actually doesn't work. You overlook the logistics and plot holes and things like that. And you just have fun with the fact that Raph was sliding down a hill and called Mikey numbnuts. Like it just, you overlook all that stuff because how well that one thing does work.
Yeah. Wow. So I got so many things to say. First, Matt's just barely his reaction might forever be in like the Hall of Fame of the Basement Binge. There's a few episodes, particular moments that I like are frozen in my brain from recording, and that is now going to be one of them. That was so funny. Second, Man, I was so close. When I was guessing, when we were rummaging for the rotten, I thought, you know what? I think both of them are going to be at 3.5, and one of them is going to slightly be above the other. So I'm going to guess a tie. Oh, and I was so close. But I gotta comment on what you said, Rod. Of making a comparison to a well-groomed steak. One of the things I say frequently when I talk about movie rating is that you're never going to hear me complain that McDonald's doesn't taste like home cooking. And I will totally go to McDonald's way more than I should. This is yes, it does have shortcomings, but for what it needs to be, it does really well, and that's beef fun with the turtles. But I am shocked with Matt that you like this as much as you did. When I was guessing at 3.5, I was like, if I'm lucky, it's a 3.5. Rob might come around and give us like a 2, but wow, I picked a good one.
Listen, I am what you want to like.
I am surprised, but Harrison, that's so funny for the McDonald's thing, because I was just thinking the best parts of this movie are when you get hot fries through the drive-thru at McDonald's, and the worst parts are when it's the cold fries and you're like, I don't even want them anymore.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. So with our rottens revealed and Matt being the rotten at a 3.5, let's move on to the last segment here. Fall in. This should be kind of brief one, but one that I do think really does belong here. We've talked about how the idea of brotherhood between the turtles works really well. And I gotta say something that I was shocked and I kind of felt embarrassed when I was watching the movie with my wife. That ending scene where Raph is like pronouncing and admitting that he loves his brothers and thinking they're gonna die. I started to cry and get emotional, and maybe I'm just crying a lot more lately. I don't know. But I was like, oh, why am I crying? And I will say, it really bothers me that sincerity is immediately undercut by a joke, like way faster than it should be. I understand a joke. I'm fine with that. But it's so immediate that it really ruins it, which is a bummer because that moment is so sincere. And the strongest part of this movie is the turtles' relationship and their difficult brotherhood. And to have that all lead up to this moment where the most independent brother pronounces and professes his love and acceptance for them. And I really feel it. And it's really amazing how it works so well to that. As cheesy as it is, the theme of you're stronger together than you ever were alone. How many times has that been done? But there's something about it being done this time with these characters that works really well for me.
Yeah,
these guys have their specialties. Each guy kind of has his own place. Each guy has his own. A technician. They're a technician in their own way. They're a specialist in their own way. And if they try to do it, by themselves, yes, you're right. We have seen this, but for whatever reason, and I just think it's probably because we've lived with these characters now for 30 years. It hits harder. It lands better when it's done well with these characters than when it's done with Dom and his crew. It's all about family.
It's all about family. Yeah, Harrison, I want to jump on that scene that you talked about, because when I first saw it, really, I was like, oh, like this is really good. And then like the more I watch it, I start to like get more and more upset the more times I've seen this with that scene, because of the fact that like it is undercut so quickly, and the way, not just that it's undercut so quickly, it's they're what, 30, 40, 50, I don't know, 60 feet up in the air as that thing is falling. And how did it just all of a sudden land on the ground? Like,
and how did Raph not know that they were landing? Like, didn't he feel the big thud on the ground?
Right.
Like, it wasn't a graceful thing.
Yeah, it's just so weird. So, when I think about the fact that it was like undercut by a joke, and then I'm just like, how did they actually land 100% safe from where they were? That scene just like, it loses more and more appeal. But I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, this is so good. But again, just like, for the namesake of this segment, it really is just, and sometimes I think with us doing some of these episodes now and some of the things that happen in these movies, it's a lot more relatable because there's certain things that have happened. There's people that I have become friends with. Rob and I, met because of work and have become friends. But, Harrison, we've mentioned this several times. You, myself, and Rob have never met ever.
Right.
And we've developed a friendship where we don't just jump on the podcast. We'll, text each other and see what's going on and say hello. And, it's, I find it unique that something like that can happen strictly over movies, that you can develop a friendship and you can say like, geez, I hope, Harrison's doing okay. I hope Rob's doing okay. Like, I wonder what's going on. Like, hey, what have you guys been up to before we even talk about a movie? So I think when we do some of these things, some of these messages, at least for me, just, they hit a little bit harder because I've seen firsthand how, even though people are individuals, how much closer we are than sometimes we're, led to believe.
Very well said. I couldn't have said it better. It's particularly in the idea of the three of us forming this friendship. People, when you go to parties or you catch up with siblings or whatever, they know that I'm doing the podcast and they always ask very nicely, how's the podcast going? And for a while, my response was like, oh, it's going or whatever, like something stupid. And now the first thing I always bring up to them is like, it is so cool because of the podcast. I've connected to this guy, Matt, who has a podcast in New York. And now I know his friend, Rob, and we record podcasts together frequently. And like I've developed a genuine friendship where I text these people, we have a group chat, and I make a joke that's like I get to talk to them about all the things that my wife doesn't want to listen to about movies, and it's 90% true. But it's true. It's awesome to have this. And the funny thing is, as you say this, I meant to say this before we started recording, and I forgot. I got a library card recently because my sister started working at the library, and I've checked out nothing but comics because the two of you have talked about comics so much in episodes that we've done together, and I've wanted to like. Particularly, I just read the Old Man Logan comic, and I was like so excited. Like, oh, Matt and Rob have been telling me about this. I got to read this, and I was so excited when my library had that. And it's great to find those bonds with people. Whether you're giant turtles who also happen to be ninjas, or whether you're people sitting down and recording an episode miles and miles apart about these said ninjas. It's great to find people where you feel like you have some partnership and some belonging and some commonality that really works and you jive together, which is sweet to have that. And I'm glad that I'm not the only one feeling this between the three of us. I'm just, man, these guys are the best. And you two are like, oh, Harrison, can we just get off this episode?
It's just like, yeah, I got a 7:00 I got to get to, I got my next Zoom meeting to get through. I'd said this before. I think it was the first time I was on your show that, that's the power of movies. If you're ever in a new group of people and you're trying to see who you're going to be friends with, or you're in a situation where, you're in a new work environment or something like that, and you're trying to, as an adult, just form new relationships. One of the simplest things to do is just start talking about movies, and you're going to start finding people's passions about things. And all of a sudden, bang, you realize you've got more in common with so many people than you realize. I think in our very, very polarized world that we live in, where it's either us or them, and all of a sudden you realize there's a whole lot more us and not a whole lot of them when you really get right down to it, no matter how much people want to divide us. And movies are one of those things that there are people who are way, way over on this side and way, way over on that side that like the same movies. It's amazing if we would only recognize that more.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Rob's first ever question to me, I've said this before. His first statement to me was, hello, thanks for, coming in. But during a job interview, Rob's first real sentence to me was, so what kind of movies? You into Marvel? Like, that was one of the first dialogues that Rob and I had during a job interview.
I Matt got hired because he didn't tell me he liked The Last Jedi. Had he told me that he liked The Last Jedi, I would have been like, all right, well, thanks for your time. We'll call you.
Thank God that was, 3 years into the future. Like,
yeah, the thing is, I love stuff like this too, and just to, like you said earlier, Matt, to continue with the namesake of this segment, trying to find a theme in all this. I think it was Splinter who said, "You're stronger together than you ever were alone," or something like that. And like genuinely, in a real life application of that, in the idea of the three of us doing a podcast together, I can't speak for you, Matt, but it's amazing to see how I have been more successful in doing this podcast since doing it more frequently with the two of you. Now, do I do every episode with you? No, there's still things I do on my own, and that's the way life works. But, and I'm talking from like a downloads and recognition standpoint on the interwebs that we send this audio out into, but also just like personally in my commitment to get episodes done and to be involved in something that I do have a strong desire for. But there's something of like a synergy, a network that really is worthwhile in life, whether it's in a hobbyist type thing like this podcast, or whether it's at work, or whether it's at home, or wherever you find yourself. Having a network of people to promote your continued success of it is really an incredible thing that I've seen the difference of genuinely in my life since doing this more with the two of you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with that. The episodes that we've done together, the ones that, Rob and I have done, the three of us have done, you and I have done. And like I said, even Rob being with his brother and listening to the Fight Club episode and just listening to the Goodfellas one. I said earlier, Fight Club's cracked the top 10 already for downloads. Like, people have enjoyed that. And I think I mentioned this when I talked about listening to your Dune review, Harrison, is, sometimes I'm excited to talk about something on my own, but the passion and the energy doesn't always come out the same when I'm just bouncing ideas off of somebody, or hearing somebody else's thoughts in the moment and being able to react to it. I said this about your Dune review, and I think maybe this is why the Fight Club episode is doing so well and people are talking about it, is because there was a genuine passion and excitement that I got from both of you listening to those reviews, and how much that Dune event meant to you, Harrison, and how forward you're looking to that movie. And then Rob, about how Fight Club has, always been something that you've thought about since the first time that you saw it, and you just continue to, think about things in that movie. It's fun to be able to have that passion and that desire just bounce off of other people.
I completely agree. And the thing is, we can sit here and have this really, big-minded conversation, and ultimately we're just talking about movies, like entertainment, and I love entertainment as much as the next guy. It's just great to have things that bring joy and excitement, and joy and excitement to your life. It is really worthwhile, and it's great to have people who promote that in your life, because life can be a drab sometimes. And I made a joke earlier how I talked to the two of you about the things that my wife doesn't want to hear, and I'm joking, because my wife she'd listen to me about anything, but it is true to have people who have your same mindset to share with you, and to allow that passion and excitement to not just be like, because someone's not interested. So I'm just totally floored that this is something that, when I started this podcast, one of my coworkers just mentioned that they were listening to my Spider-Verse episode, which is literally the first episode I ever recorded with Cade and Kelton. We were in my backyard. The sprinklers turned on. There were birds chirping. It was horrible, horrible episode. I went and re-listened to it to feel how horrible it was, and I got back into that mindset of me way back then, way back in 2019. Because I'm coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the Basement Binge. Way back in 2019, I never imagined that I'd be sitting down in my basement recording an episode with two dudes from New York. But it's a reality, and it's just amazing that that's a thing that's in life, and I'm just grateful for it.
And we have movies to thank for it.
Very well. Great conclusion, Rob. Tying that up with a great bow. So I don't mess up what Rob just tied up, I'm going to give Matt and Rob one last chance to talk about Matt Goes to the Movies, because as you can tell, I really enjoy what the two of them have to say about movies. If you enjoy movies, I promise you will enjoy hearing what they have to say about movies. So yeah, Matt and Rob, you want to give us, Rob, you can go first again, just a real kind of sum up another plug for Matt Goes to the Movies.
Yeah, so Matt's got plenty of great content on his channel, lots of solo episodes, and plenty that I've been on. Like I said, we have the 2 episodes that my brother and I have done together, and we're probably thinking about maybe like once a month we'll be able to get something like that together. But certainly would love to have anybody listen in. You can email the show, mgttmpodcast@gmail.com. It's just the initials for Matt Goes to the Movies, podcast@gmail.com. Hit the show up on social media. There's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Matt, do you have an OnlyFans account for the show or just your personal? Do you have one for the show yet?
Just personal. I'm working on some more bicep curls before I get one for the show.
But yeah, if anybody's a fan of this show, certainly Harrison's been nice enough to jump on a lot of the episodes over on that channel, and it's been a lot of fun when all 3 of us have been together, and it's been fun for me to listen to the episodes that I haven't been able to be a part of, because there's plenty of great content.
Yeah, I second all of that. It's been a blast. Harrison and I just did iRobot together, which was a ton of fun. It was like a year in the making to get that episode done. We joked during that episode that was originally supposed to be the first collaboration we ever did together, was supposed to be iRobot, but as life sometimes does, that one didn't happen. We ended up doing Bumblebee, which was a lot of fun. But it was fun to come back to that original episode that we were first going to do together and talk about iRobot. I mentioned earlier I'm going to be doing one on The Breakfast Club. I will be getting my Tom Cruise marathon up and running hopefully this week. But I will say that, Rob, you had better absolutely destroy Out of the Shadows, because I don't know if I can take 2 episodes of you liking a movie. It's throwing off the whole dynamic.
Rob, you have a reputation. We got to keep it.
We got a lot to live up to. All right. I'll see if I can destroy it properly.
Well, I really do appreciate the 2 of you being here. It's a blast. Genuinely, I just enjoy it. It's a great time, but I also appreciate you and the help in producing a great episode. If you've clicked in the show notes and headed over to Matt Goes to the Movies, and you're looking for a great episode to check out, obviously the ones that they mentioned, the Fight Club and the new one on Goodfellas and iRobot, I would definitely recommend those. But 2 that I particularly love, or it's actually more than 2, but the episodes on Justice League, Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then Mortal Kombat. Those are movies that, if I'm being honest, I don't particularly have a large interest in, but there's something about the conversation that Matt and Rob have that kept me completely engaged, even though I couldn't even rub 2 thoughts together about those films, because one of them I haven't even seen. So if you like listening to people talk about movies like this episode, I would recommend those. Those are great. Here at the Basement Binge, brief announcement. Next week, like Matt just talked about, we're doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadow, the sequels, and then hopefully after that, the La La Land episode will come. Sorry for the delay, but hopefully that episode is worth the wait. Thank you so much for listening to the Basement Binge, for downloading. For all of you, whether you're new, returning, I appreciate all of you so much. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, wherever they're available. But once again, my name is Harrison. This is the Basement Binge, and that is all for now. Ciao, ciao.